help me understand the states that you mentioned. We know that every state that has legalized marijuana is expanding their programs. Nobody is repealing, nobody's deterring or doing anything in their states to mess with their recreational marijuana programs. I really want to understand, when in your research and in your data, especially Colorado, who's been around for about a decade, what have they done to deter? What best practices have they put in place that we could utilize in Louisiana that would help deter fatalities and crashes from marijuana? Because that's what we're here for today, is to get some input, because in a month from now, we're going to have a LEAF program in our medicinal program. So the difference between recreational and medicinal is about to be, did you go to a doctor and get a prescription for it, or did you walk in and buy it? Because we have a full LEAF program that's about to start in the next 30 days. So I want to understand, what are you telling them, or what are you suggesting for Louisiana to deter fatalities from marijuana use?
Thank you,
What
Mr. Chairman.
programs,
Yes,
what
sir.
what initiatives, what billboards, what commercials, what education in the school system, what anything that we could use that would help kids understand, or adults understand, you don't want to drive if you're going to use marijuana, whether it's prescribed or not prescribed.
If I might go back to your earlier point that no one in those states where it's been legalized has done any backtracking, that actually is not quite the case.
Well, help me.
Yes, sir. In several of the states, different regions, counties, towns have been able to exercise their
Local options. Yeah, we have that. We understand
and
that.
so, in terms of the entire state being accepting of legalized marijuana, that's not the case, for instance, in Colorado or Washington State or Oregon. And so there's
right, but a local option is a good thing. People should be able to use in their parishes and decide what they want. I don't think that means they're against it. I just think they just don't want it sold in their parish, right? That's a good thing, local option. It allows parishes to decide and get with other parishes and decide where we're going to put marijuana, right? Okay.
Well, local options have been exercised in these
Right.
states, and they are going in a different direction than the entire legalization realm. And so I was not part of those committee meetings or the ultimate legislative process in those states. I don't know what the engagement was, but they did not agree apparently by the end result with the decision at that state level to proceed with legalized marijuana. And then to your other question about what are these states, what's being done in other states, therefore what would we do here in Louisiana? Well, my counterparts, the Highway Safety Office directors in these various states, they're doing the things that you mentioned. They are educating. They're doing more education, as Representative Nelson, spoke to. They're doing, great
Right. You have any
enforcement.
specifics on the things that they're doing for us, please?
They're doing the same things we're doing here.
Okay.
With impaired driving as it currently exists. The issue in those states is that there's still a disconnect, even with trying to mitigate some of the negative outcomes from legalized marijuana. Those negative outcomes are still being exacerbated.
All right. Do you have a state that would help us if we reached out to them, and that you find in your research that has the best practice for deterring driving while under the influence of marijuana?
We don't have states that have looked at the issue from that perspective. We have states, the states I've mentioned, who have done some reactionary collateral damage control. There are those states clearly that are having to do that because of the fatality numbers that are coming out since the passage of legalized marijuana.
Okay. And do you know what states have had the best reduction in crashes due to marijuana when they did have an increase? What states had the best decline or the most decline? based on what they reactionary deals?
I'm not aware that the measures that these states engaged in post legalization actually had an effect that resulted in declines. That they are engaged, fast and furiously to address it in terms of it sticking, in terms of it working. I'm not aware of any of the states that have found the sweet spot, have found the formula to, counteract what legalization has wrought.
Okay. But you do agree that most states did have an increase when they legalized marijuana, and then they had a decrease.
That's
No state has
haven't-
continued on a pendulum of increase.
it tends to plateau. There tends to be an increase and then a plateau. But
Okay.
marijuana ingestion is not the only issue with impaired driving. There are other factors. There's distracted driving. Failure to wear your seatbelt is also a large factor in
Okay.
deaths.
There are other things that are contributing to the fatality aspect, but not the
Yes,
crash.
they're not continuing to rise. They tend to have leveled off, but there was that spike during that legalization period, which goes to that correlative, if not perhaps causative connection.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right. Thank you so much.